Hey guys, today I wanted to do a quick tutorial video on a graffiti shirt. Basic shirt from the website. This is a simple short name. I'm going to show you all the steps I use to do it. Let's just get into it. I'm writing Aslin, A-S-L-I-N, in my graffiti style. And here we go. First thing you do is kind of sketch in your letters. Very simply, very lightly. You don't want this to shine through at the end of the shirt. So you just want to very lightly do that. Hopefully you can see that. Looks like you can. And the next thing you do, usually I would do this kind of in my head, but I'm going to do it a little more on the shirt so you can see the process. I'm going to take all these sketches that I did and I'm going to expand on them to know where the black outlines are going to go. So I'm just kind of sketching in the letters. I'm using the lines that I sketched initially as the center point for the bigger strokes that I'm adding on after the fact. I'm making sure to keep a consistent thickness across the whole shirt. I don't want some letters that are way wider than others. The whole letter itself can be bigger, but I don't want the strokes within the letter to be real big over here and real small over here. You want some consistency. Now if you want to go back and add some details, again I would usually do this in black, but I'll go through my thought process here. I want this to be a little bit wider. Instead of going straight down here, I could come a little farther out and then come back in, something like that. Add little flourishes where you think it would look good. Sometimes it's neat to, instead of hitting 90 degrees like that, make it overlap a little bit, something like that. Just add a little bit of depth, and this will come with style as your style develops over time. Once you know what your letters look like and what you like to do, you're going to develop all of your own lettering styles and all of those things. Once you've got your outlines done, come back in with black. I like to make thicker outlines around the outside of the letters, especially at the bottom, and then thinner outlines where the letters meet each other. I'll show you what I mean by that. Nice and thick over here. And then as the letters touch, I kind of fade them out instead of connecting it all the way through. I want this line that I just did to connect all the way through. That's a little bit off. But I'm not just putting a random shape inside the A. I want this stroke to act like a stroke all the way through so that this line connects. Just add a little bit of flavor when you hit corners and stuff. That makes a big difference. Not too much, and make sure it's consistent, but just a little bit of something extra instead of a regular circle. I'm getting airbrush problems, excuse me. Now I'm going to come down this way because it's easier to do a dagger stroke out than to do a dagger stroke in. So I stop the line here. I'm going to come back this way so I can end in a point. Again, notice how I don't connect the letters when they are touching each other. Sometimes you have to increase legibility, but if you can get away with it and you plan well, having one big shape that says a word instead of individual letters that say a word, that looks pretty good. Now I like to come in with a drop shadow. There's a million different ways you can accent your letters, detail your letters. Many different designs you can do with it after you've done the foundation of your letters. I'm going to do a simple drop shadow. It's really easy. And you can use that drop shadow to fix some mistakes that you made or help increase legibility of your letters. Things get a little confusing in here, but if I add a drop shadow onto the eye, helps reiterate what these letters are. Legibility is key here. It doesn't matter how cool your shirt looks and how interesting the design is. If your customer can't read it, they're not going to be happy with it. So I think the letters are pretty much done here. We're keeping it relatively simple, but I think that looks good. I'm going to extend this a little bit more. I'm going to show this corner a little bit more. And all that's doing is reinforcing what those letters are to increase the legibility. I don't think anybody's going to have a hard time reading that. Now, I'm going to fill it in with some color. I like to start at the bottom, doing little dagger strokes up. This helps you get a smooth finish without a bunch of overspray. If you're tilting your airbrush up so the overspray goes up instead of coming in flat where it can go up and down. Same thing with the sides. I'm coming in at an angle so that the overspray lands inside the letters instead of outside the letters. Now I'm going to fade in the rest. Now I'm going to pull back the choke, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. Because that gives you, when you're pulling the trigger back all the way, the needle only comes but so far. But if you pull this back, you can pull the needle back farther than the trigger will and give you even more paint. It's harder to control, but if you can, then you can paint a lot faster. Be aware of overspray in doing this. This is why I did the outline first. If I did this on the very edges, overspray would be everywhere. Just a little technique. Now I'm going to come in with a lighter blue and fill in the inside a little bit. See how much faster that is. Now I want to put more blue in. I'm not just going to go straight over it. I'm going to actually do another coat. I'm going to start where I first started and do it again. You're dealing with wet paint. When you're layering wet paint on top of wet paint, you have to know that the effects are different. Speaking of that, since this blue I just laid down is still wet, I'm going to immediately come in with my white and I'm going to paint the highlights while the paint is still wet, because what that does is this white is going to push the blue paint through the shirt onto the board and leaving me with a nice white finish instead of a dull gray finish like most white airbrushing looks. I'm not just layering white paint on top of the blue, I'm pushing the blue through the shirt with the air pressure. That's how you get nice bright highlights. I guess these are low lights are at the bottom. I'm going to do the top too. Notice I didn't do this edge. The way that these lines are oriented, it looks like this top one is in front of this bottom piece. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. How can I explain that? Okay, this S is on top of the L. So I wouldn't outline the L right here underneath the S. I would outline the S only. This A is on top of the S. I wouldn't put this white line here inside of the S because it would be behind the A. Instead, I would do the A's line. Does that make sense? It's all about depth. You only outline what's in front. And just some little dots or something. Now they want orange on the outside, so I'm gonna do an orange outline and some drips. Get close to the shirt, you want a hard outline. At least I do. This takes practice and airbrush control. Now some drips. I see a lot of drips that I don't like. I come straight down and straight back up. And straight back up is important because it gives you this little bulb at the bottom. I'm also coming in at an angle, if I can show you this. I'm coming in sideways and down, and then when I come back up, I go to the left. Tapers everything in. If you want to come back with a little bit of a circle to accentuate the drip at the bottom, you can do that. It's easy to overdo drips, and it's easy to make them look real goofy, so be careful with them. But once you get them down, it's a very quick addition. Adds a lot of character. And then I'm gonna come in with a soft yellow. Of course, this is all up to you. Just backing my airbrush away so I get a soft look instead of a hard outline. I'm not going to outline the drips the same way. Instead, I'm just going to come and fade down a little bit from the top. And really, that's it. This is the design we were going for. And that's what we ended up with. Very similar. And that's the step-by-step process of how it's done. I hope you learned something. I hope you had a good time. Now go practice. See you guys.